Hello everybody, welcome to the Wonky Angle, where I talk about electronic music, both new and old. And today is a Patreon request from Vladdy Vivaldi. I'm talking about the debut album from Fallgrapp, Rieka. So, Fallgrapp is a collective from Slovakia with several different members who all have names that I am pretty much guaranteed to mispronounce. It's mostly led by the producer Rieka, featuring two lead vocalists, Nora Ibsenova and Agata Siesmazko. Apologies. And several violinists and other musicians that I don't feel like saying the names of out loud. I don't really know what I expected going into this. I'd obviously never heard of these guys before the request came in. The requester told me that he's friends with the producer, though they did not appear to just be, like, everyday obscure Bandcamp artists. First of all, from the fact that they got, like, several violinists. I mean, they've already just got a pretty decent following already. Like, they're on an indie label called Gergaz, and had two limited edition vinyl runs of this album that are both already sold out. They've also released two other albums since this one of which came out earlier this year, though I've not heard either of those, only this debut from 2014. I don't think I've ever covered any artists from Slovakia before, and if I haven't forgot about it, then they certainly hadn't made that directly part of their identity like this outfit has. Like, the lyrics are entirely in Slovak. But yeah, with absolutely zero clue on what I was getting into, I gave this project one spin, just streamed it off their Bandcamp page, and when it was done, I immediately purchased it. This project was really freaking good. It's kind of difficult to describe what this album is like. It certainly doesn't fit, like, snugly into any one genre. I suppose the closest matches might be, like, trip hop or indie pop or something like that. There's some influence from UK garage scattered around. But it also strongly advertises itself as combining these influences with world music. And I think that translates as just having some super dense sound design with a ton of different instrumentation. It has a very orchestral bend to everything. I guess this project came off to me as somewhere in between maybe like Sounds from the Ground's Natural Selection, The Drums Portrait with Firewood, and Bjork's Vespertine. The latter of those probably being the closest match of the three. The instrumental density and overall aesthetic is very Vespertine-esque, though it's also poppier. The vocals are much more, I guess, straightforward and traditional sounding than Bjork's, despite not being in English. But yeah, this project just floored me with one listen. The production is incredible. The actual tunes are great too. It's got some solid sonic variety as well. I'm obviously not going to be breaking down the lyrics. I briefly ran them through Google Translate. They just seem to be about your typical love and heartbreak stuff you'd expect. And I am obviously not equipped to delve any deeper into, like, any symbolism that might be there or whatever. I mean, the lyrics are really not what matters on a project like this anyway. It seems much of Fallgrapp's following got into them without knowing a word of Slovak themselves as well, so there's that too. So yeah, going down individual tracks, we do start with a little warm-up intro. Got some electric pianos, plinking bells, and violins. Lets you know what to expect in terms of production level, certainly had me intrigued. But that was nothing compared to the second track of Vlasy, which... holy crap. That one knocked my socks off. After like about a minute of tense ambient build-up, this track just kicks into high gear with this fast-paced beat and sub-bass going up against all the harps and strings. There's a bunch of awesome violin solos, and that's all before the vocals even come in at the 2-minute mark, and they fit perfectly over the instrumental and sound fantastic as well. Just all the energy and insane level of the sound design on this, it was nuts. I absolutely loved it immediately. I was kind of worried after this that we had peaked too early, and while it is true that the second track was my favorite in the bunch and the rest of the album delivers on similar mixes of the same sonic formulas, that track isn't my favorite by a huge margin. Like, they certainly are able to keep up with it quality-wise. The title track, for instance, is a little more trip-hop-ish and might have had some instrumentation in common with the intro. The chord progression is a little more complex sounding, the vocals have even more of a warmer emotional core, still sounds absolutely fantastic and stood out as a major highlight. Now, at one point in this track, I heard this, like, really washed out ambient flute sound in the background that resembled a stock loop that I have used in some of my own tracks, like Infinity -2. Though, even if it turns out to be true that we did use the same sound, I would not mark that as a complaint, since it's incorporated into the mix so seamlessly, and that loop does sound great anyways. It does not make this track sound any less professional or took away from the experience in any way, so yeah, whatever. But yeah, great stuff. And from there, I mean, energy levels may vary, but the sound design stays at that same high watermark. We can get dramatic, sort of Bjorkish ballads like we can get dramatic Bjorkish ballads like this one, and Zrcadlya Nas. I can say one of those because they say the title in the song. Or maybe we have like a more delicate and mysterious sounding cut like Ľadový Útes, or a more energetic poppy cut like I.N.A. Both of those are among the catchiest tracks in the bunch and easy favorites of mine. There's even 2 instrumental cuts here with Origami and Arca Natura. The former has this very like Jamie XX-esque UK garage sort of bend to it, with its kind of bouncy beat and chopped up pitch shifted vocal snippets. One of the most electronic leaning tracks in the bunch. And the latter's a lot more orchestral sounding and dramatic, though conveys a very similar mood. The beats bang a little harder, kind of like a burial track or something, though also with more bells and like wood blocks, I guess. And it's just absolutely wonderful sounding. That's the closer on the vinyl version of the album, and I think that would probably be the most fitting ending you could have gone with. Now, the ending on the digital version, Cormorani, I have a little more mixed feelings on. On one hand, really good track, really fun tune, but definitely would not have been my pick for the ending on this album. Just doesn't have the right tone for an ending. It's like a lot more playful and sassy and lighthearted than the rest of the album, like this kind of funky electro-pop sort of cut. It's not, like, super out of place, per se, but, I mean, like, the sound design is still up to par with everything else, the vocal performances are as good as the rest of them, but it is not nearly as emotionally satisfying as the other tracks on here, and it ends super abruptly, too. I wouldn't be complaining about any of this if the track were a little earlier on the album. Both Arca Natura and even the penultimate track, Ruba Leak, with all its grandiose violin licks, would have made for better and far more emotionally satisfying closers. This ending is just kind of like a weird, out-of-left-field turn that feels like the wrong note to go out on. I guess if you download this album or get the CD, then you get a radio edit of the title track as the closer instead, and that would be more satisfying as well, but I don't think that counts. But yeah, that's about all I got on this album. I may have my issues and don't generally have a lot to say about it, but I was super impressed by this and would definitely recommend checking it out. The production quality and sound design is excellent. Everything sounds absolutely gorgeous, and I love the whole orchestral bend to all these instrumentals that never at any point feels overbearing. The tunes and melodies are all really solid too. There's not a single weak track in the bunch. Even that last one was really freaking good in spite of its less than ideal placement. I had too much fun with that one to pick it as my least favorite and went with the intro instead as a cop-out. But, yeah, not much else to say, really. This hasn't worn out with me with 4 repeat listens over 3 days either. It's just some great stuff. Definitely make sure you give this project a shot. I'm overall feeling an 8.3 out of 10. But of course, this is just my opinion. You can feel free to disagree with it, but I'd like to hear your thoughts, so leave the comments in the comment thing down there. Shout out to my Patreon supporters. There are some people you want to add yourself to that list or make me review something. Link to my Patreon is in the description. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all for today. See you next time.